Well, coming off of a loss to K-State, UCF heads back home for a battle with the Jayhawks. How dangerous is this Kansas team? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I am your host, Sean Green, and as always, we are sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, the line is 5.5 for UCF versus Kansas at the Bounce House. Late kick, first kick at night in the Big 12 against a Big 12 opponent. I know I'm excited. Does that give UCF the edge? We're going to talk about it, but if you're going to make a bet, make it on FanDuel. Best lines out there, especially when you are betting on UCF. So go there today. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, it's been a week. Semi-quiet. I was not at the presser on Monday because it was Magic Media Day. So I was out at Magic Media Day all day. But we've got some interesting information the last couple days about quarterbacks and all that. We're going to get into all of it. But big time game on Saturday. Like I mentioned, first nighttime game in the Bounce House, which means me and Nick get to go to bed late on Sunday morning. So that's fun for us. But I am pumped. I'm pumped to see the atmosphere. Team's a little rough, though. This is a tough matchup. But Nick joins me. First of all, Nick, for those of you that don't, if you are a loyal Charge On listener, you know Nick's wife's birthday was on Saturday. So that's why he was not on any of the content this past weekend. But Nick, how was the birthday dinner? Early dinner, 4 p.m. Little early dinner. You're old. But how was the dinner and how are you doing?
I like to get my meals and all that squared away early, and I like to get to bed early when I can. I'm already 26 years old, and I'm already at that point. So all good on that front. Yes, unable to join you for the watch along this past weekend, and of course the post game pod. I guess real quickly, sort of tying a bow on that from my standpoint. I wasn't as doom and gloom after that game, maybe as the scoreline might have suggested. I mean, that was a tough day in Manhattan, obviously, but I mean they got behind. What was it, 24-3 at one point or something like that?
No, because it was 10-7, but then they allowed the score at the end of the half, so it was 17-7.
Might have been 24-7 or something like that. It's all a blur. It's all a blur for me, but I was juggling a lot of things while I was trying to watch the game. But point being, they got down by a good bit, and they showed fight though. They showed some fight. I think it was 31. I think I'm thinking, what was it, 31-10? That's what it got to,
yep,
right?
31-10.
31-10. Got it. It was 31-10, and then they got it down to 31-20, I believe. And, obviously Taven Jackson got hurt in the first half. And, man, you talk about at the moment, I thought Taven, there were tears in his eyes and everything.
Oh, we thought he was out.
I thought he was done for good. And
out for the year.
Was not expecting him to come back into that football game whatsoever. But he fought his way back in there, and, they did what they could. We got to see the Dakari Brown experience, man. I mean... It's an experience. I guess I'll put it like that for sure.
Remember, we called it the John Rice Plumlee roller coaster at one point. I feel like it's a similar analogy. But
John Rice was much more capable as a passer than Jakari for sure. But so that didn't work out. But I give the guys a lot of credit. I thought they battled, they fought in that game. I never think they checked out of it. Mentally, I think there were some issues, obviously, on one of those drives late where they had a couple false starts that did not help go in their favor, and they were unable to pick up a fourth down, obviously, there, and the game got away from them. But, I think the defense, you look at it, and it says 34 points allowed. I thought that doesn't really do justice for, the way they played. Maybe it wasn't as buttoned up as their previous performances, for sure. But I still felt the defense did some good things. And the offense, I think the most important thing was they found some sort of a running game throughout that contest and were able to hit some explosives as well. Obviously, in the passing game, you saw DJ Black had a long touchdown there, the first touchdown on the board for them. So some good, clearly some bad, but I'm not as doom and gloom about it. And again, it's just another reminder that UCF is a rebuilding squad, and North Carolina is not very good. I think we can realize that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the UCF fans that were very gloom about this game, I get it, and I understand where you can kind of come from and be like, if you had a mindset that UCF was just far superior than this Kansas State team, I can understand that. And yes, by the looks of it, you went into this game saying UCF should be able to win this game. Kansas State is not as dominant as we thought they were going to be. Well, the bye week helped them out, and they learned some stuff. And UCF, let's be real here. I mean, yes, if Taven Jackson didn't, and again, it is on Taven Jackson. He wasn't looking up at the clock, and you had two delay games, which shouldn't have been delay games.
Delay games, that's what they were. Yep.
No, I always say false start, and I know it's not. I don't mean to say false start.
Delay game.
But he had two delay games because I don't know what he was looking at in that stadium to make him believe the clock, but he put it on himself. You go score a touchdown on that drive, that's 31-24. You're in a one-score game. And then again, I know it's a what-if game, but the defense coming out of the second half, you allowed a quick, 6-play, 2-minute drive where they scored a touchdown. And then the very next play, because UCF's offense went down and scored a touchdown, very next play, 75-yard rushing touchdown where you just allow on one play. So it's like the defense got buttoned up after that. But you kind of look at it and say, yes, the score isn't indicative of UCF kept fighting. If a couple more plays go their way or they were buttoned up on a couple more plays, you're looking at a different ballgame. So I think in all facets of the team, they need to be better. But I think you like the fact that they didn't stop fighting. You like the fact that at the end of the day, they were making some noise in the fourth quarter. And the defense was getting stops. The offense was moving the ball. But again, this is where the efficiency comes into play. And this is not a above average football team. If they're average, that's 6-6. You're hoping for average. And if they can somehow come out in a week, maybe it's this week against a Kansas team that, let's be real, nobody thinks they're going to win this game. Maybe you come out and you perform better than most people think and you somehow get a win. And that's what we're going to talk through today. But that's kind of, you don't know what you're going to get from UCF each week. Some weeks it's going to look like Kansas State, where it just doesn't look buttoned up. And somehow you got to find a way to win. And if you don't, at least you keep fighting. And Scott Frost mentioned that in his post-game press conference. So, again, I'm proud of the way they fought. It's a tough loss. But again, with all the circumstances, too, I think that plays into it. But, Nick, do you have any final things to say before we kind of move on?
No, not really. I think you sort of touched on it. Like we said, we like to fight out of the squad, and obviously, it seems like all three quarterbacks, are very banged up. From what I saw from Scott Frost today, it doesn't seem like he's as optimistic about Jakari's status for this game.
Which is it have the same injury. Taven and Jakari, same injury, not even an hour from each other. Right. And Taven's looked a lot worse.
Yeah.
Yet it looks like Taven's going to play and Jakari's probably out.
Yeah, it looks like Jakari might miss this one. Obviously, we'll know later in the week. But, I guess I would expect at this point that Taven's going to be out there. And, I mean, we know he gives the team the best shot to win. But still, from his personal standpoint, I think he would tell you there's a lot of things he could be better at.
100%. That's the development factor. But let's kind of get into it. And listen, usually we do just pure team breakdown on the team UCF is playing, but I think with so many question marks, like, again, quarterback, is Taven Jackson healthy enough? Is Cam Fancher healthy enough? Is he ready to really kind of step in if need be? Kind of coupled with the fact of a Kansas team that, listen, I was open and honest. They hurt me and Nick's hearts. Me and Nick had a parlay. Kansas was included. They lost. So if anybody in the country wants, it's not just because we want UCF to win just in general, but if there's anybody in the country that want Kansas to lose this game, it is us for last week. So,
and the way Kansas lost that game, it was a big college football slate this past Saturday, right? So if you were not watching Kansas and Cincinnati on, I think it was on TNT, if I'm correct, like it was I didn't know TNT had college football.
Better than TBS.
Apparently they do. Aren't those the same thing basically?
Probably, but TNT is better because of NBA. Like they had NBA, now they don't.
Yeah, well, it was on TNT, and I had just gotten home from, or no, it was right before I was about to go to dinner, and I was like, oh, Kansas State's up by 3 points, and with like a minute and a half left, can they make a stand? And they choked it away, man. They choked
He meant
it
to
away.
say Kansas, by the way. I know.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
Yeah,
You're
I know.
right.
We know what you meant. I just want the audience for the keyboard warriors
Kansas,
to go.
Yeah, Kansas. They choked it away a little bit on that final drive. They allowed a fourth and 10 pickup. They dropped a pick. Cincinnati scored, and then they had a disaster of an offensive possession to end it, and that was that. Me and Sean's parlay that we went in on together did not hit.
No, it did
which
not.
Is probably my fault.
It would have lost anyway.
It's probably my fault because I don't bet. I never bet, and Sean is definitely more of a gambler than me. And I've watched him win all these weeks, and I was like, okay, this week I'm going to join in. And he was stupid enough to let me.
I rode.
You were stupid enough to let me build the parlay. And honestly, it wasn't even Kansas's fault. Kansas lost, but we also had LSU over Ole Miss.
Yeah, we had LSU. Yeah,
that was doomed too. So I don't know what I'm doing when it comes.
We're
to
gonna craft up one on FanDuel this week, and it's gonna hit.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing with betting. So there you go.
Well, let's talk about Kansas, the team that broke our hearts first. Well, technically, yes, first on Saturday because UCF game wasn't over yet. Listen, Lance Leipold, a name that was kind of brought up as a potential UCF target, which is crazy to say. One of the best coaches, again, in the Big 12, but in college football, I think Lance Leipold can have a lot of jobs if wanted. Kansas, it's been very interesting, Nick. Like, you kind of look at their schedule, and obviously they have a very similar front half to us, where they had Fresno State and Wagner in their first two games, and they just handled them. I even told you, I think in week 1, I said I feel like the Kansas State game is going to be similar to Kansas or the Kansas State. See, I just did it too. I said UCF's game against I'm already forgetting Jack State was going to be similar to Kansas, and it wasn't. But it kind of just seemed like the offense was humming. You have Jalen Daniels finally healthy, running an offense. We'll get to Jalen Daniels in a second. The Missouri game. I mean, that game was one of the best games of the college football slate so far. That was just a fun watch. You can make the argument Kansas I think Kansas played better for a majority of that football game, and Missouri kind of just took it late. And Kansas made too many mistakes at the end. They have the bounce back win against West Virginia, 41-10, just dominated them. And then last week, again, I don't want to give Cincinnati credit because, I don't really think Cincinnati's that good of a football team, but they're improved from last season. Cincinnati is okay. They are
really good
above
offense.
Average. They have
really good offense.
As much as I don't like Brennan Sorsby, man, has he just shown me a lot more this season. So, I don't know. Obviously, Jalen Daniels threw for 445 yards against Cincinnati, so there's that. But let's kind of go into Kansas. What have you seen from the Jayhawks? Again, I think there's a lot to like about the offense and kind of the firepower on that end. But I think the defense, we can kind of get into it. Defense has kind of given up too much at times, which is something that UCF can kind of benefit from.
Yeah, I think, they're 3-2, and maybe they don't have an impressive win necessarily on their schedule, but they've taken care of business against the teams they should take care of business of, and then they went on the road in a rivalry game, so to say, against Missouri. And Missouri, I think Missouri might be a top 15 team right now, to be honest with you, based on what they've showed me this season. So the fact that they were in that game for the entirety of it, they kind of just got Bo Prabulid there. I think we call it that, Bo Prabulid, at the end of that game. But even last week, that was a back and forth contest between them and Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, one of the best offenses in college football this year. Sorsby's playing at a really high level, and he played outstanding. But so did Jalen Daniels, and that's sort of been the MO with Kansas over the last 4 seasons that Jalen Daniels has, really become the starter there, is when he's playing. Kansas can play with anybody, just about. They really can. And when he's had his injury issues, Kansas has really struggled. It's been that simple for them. But this year he's playing at, the Big 12, you could argue top to bottom has maybe the most loaded crop of quarterbacks out there in the nation. And right now, as we stand, Jalen Daniels is the number one, leading passer in the conference and one of the leading passers in all of college football. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that he is so experienced. This is his 6th year or something like that, something crazy. But obviously we know he can hurt you with his legs as well. He's got that ability. He's been really good as a passer. His offensive line in front of him They've been stalwarts all season long. They have top 10 in the country in the amount of time that Jalen Daniels has had to throw this year. They've only allowed 4 sacks in 5 games, so really buttoned up unit there. He is a handful, and I mean Alex Grinch, him and his defense, they're going to have their hands full trying to keep him quiet. I would probably tell you they just won't, because he's just that good of a player. He's going to make plays throughout this game. Maybe you try to force a turnover here. I think that's going to be key. Can UCF try to win the turnover battle? I think that's what their best shot is, to sort of keep them in this football game.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough. Jalen Daniels has 2 interceptions on the year. That came against Missouri and Wagner, so he's had 2 straight weeks with no interceptions. Let's kind of get into the offense and Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels, I mean, he's been around the block, as we know. If you I'm just looking at stats. Yes, this is his 6th college football season. It's crazy to say that. But if you look at it, he's 2 touchdowns away from having the most passing touchdowns he's had in a single season. He's throwing the ball much better than he did last season in terms of completion percentage. Granted, Jalen Daniels isn't the most accurate quarterback, but he gets the job done. He's really good on the ground this season. Really, Kansas has been really good on the ground. So, Nick, you saw Avery Johnson last week, and Avery Johnson, the big negative this season was he hasn't really run the football. He's overthinking really everything, and we saw a little bit of that in the second half, but you're getting a Jalen Daniels coming into Orlando, Nick, that knows exactly what he wants to do. You know he's going to run the football, and that's something that UCF really didn't do a good job last week against Avery Johnson, was really stopping that quarterback run game.
Yeah, I think some of the concerns that I think more you were raising after the first 3 games in the season was UCF being a little leaky in run defense. Don't get your eyes all big like that.
You all were making fun of me, saying, "Oh, Sean this, Sean that," and I was 100% right. Just want to throw it out there.
Yeah.
Just want to throw it out there.
Avery Johnson definitely hurt them with his legs in that football game, and a healthy Dylan Edwards was. Yeah, I think that was the X factor in that football game. Quite frankly, was the healthy Dylan Edwards, and he broke that game open a few times. So, don't like the matchup here. Kansas didn't really get an opportunity to necessarily run the ball maybe as much as they would have wanted against Cincinnati. But when they did, I think they were still effective, obviously, and it's usually a 2-headed monster back there with LaShawn Johnson and Daniel Hishaw Jr.
LaShawn Williams.
What did I say?
LaShawn Johnson.
LaShawn Johnson exists. That is somebody else. Hold on.
You were close. I mean, you got his first name right.
Yeah, LaShawn Johnson played football for the Cardinals back in the day, and I'm not sure why he was on my
both birds, but not a Jayhawk.
Yeah, I'm not sure why LaShawn Johnson came out.
LaShawn Williams is going crazy though. I mean, he has 38 carries and 245 yards.
Yeah.
Point
being though, it's usually a 2-headed monster, but Hishaw did not play this past weekend against Cincinnati. Lance Leipold said that they are not sure about a timeline on him right now.
You keep talking. I think they released the injury report.
Yeah, I'm just going off what he said 2 days ago. He said they're not really sure a timeline there right now for his return, but when both of those backs are healthy, they are a massive problem. But even LaShawn Williams, if it's him on his own, he still can create some problems as well. And in particular, he could be really dangerous in space. Saw that in the West Virginia game where he had a 62-yard rushing touchdown where he sort of broke 3 or 4 tackles and took it all the way to the house. So he can be dangerous. UCF's run defense did not have a great day against Kansas State, so don't really like that matchup. I got to be really honest with you. I already talked about the Kansas offensive line and how good they've been in pass pro this year. So it's a big test. It's a really good Kansas offense. The one thing I will say about them, for all their success, I find this interesting. They are 117th in the nation on third down, 32% conversion rate on third down this season. So they have struggled. I know UCF obviously is going to be taking aware of that. And if they can try to get Kansas into some of those third and medium, third and longs, hopefully you can have some success. But really good offense here. I cannot be more complimentary of them.
Yeah, we'll get to the defense in a second. Like I said, they can get leaky at times, which again might make this game semi-interesting. You are at home. It is a night game. UCF fans, I hope, won't leave at halftime on a Saturday night. And I think it's going to be pretty crazy and rowdy. We'll continue talking about the offense because you kind of mentioned it. Daniel Hinshaw is out. So the injury report, we're recording this late Wednesday night. You're seeing this Thursday. Daniel Hinshaw is out. We'll get to the UCF people out in a second because I find some of these semi-interesting, and we'll get to it. But that is a guy that, listen, when UCF got their butt kicked playing Kansas a couple years ago, Daniel Hinshaw was a guy that played against UCF and had really good success. So I think when you look at it on that front, there's really, and granted, I'm going to say one guy, but there's not. You have to make sure Jalen Daniels doesn't really show up. They know how to run the football. Like Kansas, this is the team where if you look at UCF in the years past, like Kansas knows how to run the rock. And stopping LaShawn Williams is one thing, but you as a defense need to be so perfect and having your eyes in the right spot to make sure if the ball is taken by Jalen Daniels on a quarterback run, that you're making sure your eyes aren't going to Williams. Like that was the problem last week. I think too many times the eyesight was not in the right spot, and you had like that Barnett kid kind of go for a run, and UCF didn't know he had the ball, and then Avery Johnson running for 10 yards every time, and it's like those are the moments. I think UCF got better as the game went on. Like even Dylan Edwards, I don't think there was really anything up the middle for a lot of the game. It was really just to the outside. If Dylan Edwards was able to get to the outside, could really burn them. So this kind of a game where if UCF wants to have a chance, they need to stop the run. You need to force Jalen Daniels to beat you through the air.
Yeah, and the guys that he can. He absolutely can beat you through the air. There's no doubt about that. And I think in that Cincinnati game, you saw the emergence of Emmanuel Henderson Jr., the Alabama transfer, 5 catches for 214 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 93-yard score. He was outstanding. And then for that Cincinnati game, and then the senior tight end, Bowden Grown, 5 catches, 84 yards, and a tud in that game as well. That was actually a career game for him. So something to look up there, something to look up for him as well. So they've got some playmakers. We talked about the tandem at running back. If they have both, they can be dangerous. And obviously Jalen Daniels, they can beat you. They can really beat you anyway. And you know that after what happened last week, they're going to come into Orlando. I think it's the first time Kansas has ever played in Orlando. I think they might have played in a bowl game like 20 years ago or something like that, I think I read. But other than that, this is going to be the program's first trip to Orlando. Night game inside the bounce house. Hopefully it's a good crowd, but you know Kansas is going to be pretty pissed off after what happened last week. And at 3-2, I think that's a team that probably had aspirations to play in a Big 12 title game, and they know that the margin of error for them now is pretty much non-existent. They have to win, so they're gonna be playing for a lot on the line this weekend.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the skill position players. Emmanuel Henderson Jr. is one of them. He's 435 yards so far this season with 4 touchdowns. And if you look down the list, it looks like they've got 8 different guys with touchdowns this season or something to that effect. So again, this is an offense that's dangerous. It's similar to the UCF offense in terms of just getting a bunch of guys involved, but I think the clip is just this is what you hope a UCF offense can be in the next year or two. Like where you're firing on all cylinders, you have a bunch of different options, you're efficient in the red zone, you're scoring a bunch of touchdowns, because the average, if you just look at the averages for receiving, 18.9 yards per catch, 17.1, 12.5, 16.2, 20.3, 27.5. Like, you go down the list, and yes, some of those guys only have 2 receptions, but there's so many guys on this list that can do something with the football. Maybe they don't play a lot. And one of their players, Deshaun Hanukkah, is not going to be playing in this game. He is out as well. So that helps. He has 3 touchdowns on the year. But again, they just have so many other ways they can beat you. Before we get to the defense, I want to mention kicking. Their kicker's good.
Yep.
Their kicker's good. Hasn't missed. He's at 21. Hear that. 21 extra points in 5 games. 21. 7 for 7 on field goals. So if he hasn't kicked outside of 50 yards, but just assume that if he's going to kick a 40-something yarder, it's probably going in. Just thought you guys should know that.
UCF's kicker, Noah Rules, had a quality game there getting against Kansas State, too. So
yeah, he did good. He did really good.
He showed us something. I think we had some question marks a little bit about him, but he has answered those.
Yeah, he has. No, he's good. He's going to have to make some kicks this weekend. Let's talk about the Kansas defense. And that's kind of, listen, we just talked about the Kansas offense, and you saw how leaky UCF's defense got at times. I said that, Nick, I think the UCF defense in the first quarter and fourth quarter was elite, right, of this past game. The UCF defense in the first and fourth quarter was elite. The defense in the second and third quarter was bad, just bad. They didn't put a full, complete game together. Against a Kansas team where their offense is that lethal, you need to put a complete game. You might only be allowed one quarter of just bad football. We're talking about how good that Kansas offense is, and you're saying, well, UCF has no chance. Well, the good thing is Kansas's defense is okay, but you mentioned it. They're very leaky on third down. They can give up yards at inopportune times. They've got some players, but it just seems like obviously the offense is just so much more ahead of the defense, where if you're a team like UCF at home with a home crowd behind you, I think that can help you kind of stay in a game against a team that, yes, is better than you and is a little bit more experienced.
Yeah, it's definitely a defense that I would probably I'd call them average, I guess. I think average is putting it is fair. And I mean, they actually rank, I think they're 51st in the nation in total defense. So right around middle of the pack right there. They've got some guys who can make plays. I mean, they have 14 sacks this year in 5 games. Incredible. So they found a way to get to the quarterback. And I think what's interesting about it is, now granted, they played, Wagner's in there in Fresno State. So I'm sure they were rotating a lot of guys in. But for what it's worth, I mean, they have 14 sacks, Sean. They have 12 guys who have at least half a sack. I mean, they've really found it from so many different guys here on early in the season. The leading sack guy is Leroy Harris III, who has 3.5 of them. But like I said, you got 11 other guys who have picked up at least half a sack. The guy that you want to circle is probably right in the middle of the defense, similar to how Kansas State, you were circling Austin Romaine in the middle of their defense, Kansas State rather. We're just gonna screw that up the entire.
Yeah,
it is what it is. It is what it is. But for Kansas, Trey Lathan, the West Virginia transfer, he had a really, really strong season last year for West Virginia. It's continued. I think he's been even better for Kansas so far this season. He's leading them in tackles. He's picking up sacks. He's getting PBUs. He's got an interception. He's a playmaker for them. There's no doubt about that. He's a guy you got to watch for. Lyreek Wall's playing safety. He's a guy who has been really effective back there as well. He has a pick, but he also was able to come forward into the box and make some of those splash plays as well. From what I saw, he's sometimes a little too aggressive inside, and they've paid for it at moments. So maybe something you could take advantage of there. But it's an average unit. You're hoping that UCF can obviously score some points, but it's going to be difficult for UCF because I think offensively, body of work through 4 games, I think they are clearly behind the defense right now, which I think we expected.
We did, and that's where we say that this is a Kansas defense that is behind the Kansas offense by a lot. But at the same time, if we're just comparing, this Kansas defense is much better than the Kansas State defense that you saw last week, and that was a defense you struggled against. And you talked about the sacks. I just looked it up because I was intrigued. I'm like, oh, I knew they had a lot of sacks, but how many did come in those first 2 games? Only 6. Only 6 sacks in those first 2 weeks against inferior opponents. So what that tells you is they get to it doesn't matter. They can get to the quarterback. And with an offensive line, Nick, that for UCF, there's called like it is. It was not a good outing last week, and there's a lot of question marks as, is this an offensive line just bad? Those are things that need to kind of be talked about. And when you're going up against a team like Kansas, who they like to get to the quarterback, and we'll get to the pass deflections in a second, that kind of breeds some bad things maybe for UCF if the offensive line doesn't play very well.
Yeah, and they've been able to get turnovers as well. I mean, on Kansas's defense rather. So they've been very opportunistic at times this season. Sorsby definitely had his way with them for a large part of that contest, but Taven Jackson's not Brendan Sorsby. He's just not. The UCF offense is not the Cincinnati offense right now. They're very much so in the development stage, and
that's because they can't run the football.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, as I said earlier, it was good to see UCF have some big plays in the running game, but it's like not to like downplay that because that matters, but it seems like all year long it's been like 3 or 4 splash plays in the running game and everything else has been just nothing. It's just going nowhere. So it's still, to me, like, yeah, you had some splash plays, but have you really figured out much there so far through 4 games? And I don't know. At some point, you start to see a sample size. Like, I don't know if that's going to be able to be fixed throughout the season. And that to me is what I'm worried about. I just am. I don't think UCF just doesn't have the playmakers elsewhere to sort of, pass the football around and put up points like that. They're just not built that way at the moment. So they have to figure this out. But how much better can it get? I think for obvious reasons, the offensive line, I don't want to be too hard on them, I think for obvious reasons, but they just have not been good enough. They just have not been good enough up front. And that's another thing. Like, I don't think you just magically fix that in the middle of the season.
And do me a favor, look up, I usually have all this, I did not today. Do me a favor and look up Kansas rush defense in the country, just because I'm curious. But no, like, ultimately, yeah, it hasn't been good enough. I think they've done some good things. Last week, they talked about it, how they really mixed up how they were rushing the quarterback, and UCF couldn't really figure it out, and they didn't rep it as much. And Kansas is going to do the same thing. Kansas is going to do the exact same thing as like what Kansas State did. And I think they're going to rep it a lot in practice. This is going to be the real test to be able to determine if UCF is about what we think they are. Do you have it up?
They're 77th.
Okay, so again, like average to below average technically. So this is one of those weeks where if you're UCF, you got to show something in the run game. You do, because I think teams, it's the same thing. We might, Nick, be talking about the same kind of thing we were last year. The only difference is it'll be flipped. Okay, we know UCF can't run the ball, so we're just going to do everything we can to take away that short passing game and force them to run the football.
It's almost crazy. UCF is in the top 20 in yards per rush this year.
It's crazy.
And but again, it just...
That's where stats don't... You can't look at just stats. You have to watch tape.
Exactly. I think we've...
That's what we were saying about Kansas State. Everybody's like, this Kansas State defense is awful. And I'm like, watch the tape. They're not as bad as the stats tell you. Like, Kansas State, their defense is not as bad. You have to watch film. Because if you're just going off stats, UCF's one of the best rushing teams in the country. No, they're one of the worst. They just get... I mean, they had the one game against A&T, and then they have big, like last week, they had a couple big runs that broke off. Yeah. But this is going to be a big test.
Like I said, I mean, you're just not built that way as an offense to just struggle that much, because Miles Montgomery and Jaden Nixon are the 2 best players on this offense. They just are. And good for them. They've been able to make what has been in front of them, and it hasn't been much. They've been able to make something out of it. But I think the consistency down to down is just, it's missing right now.
It's missing. I also, last thing before we go to kind of predictions, but I was kind of, obviously we talked about this Kansas defense, and one thing I do think is going to be tested. You talked about sacks, and yes, that is one thing, but 19 pass deflections. 19. Like, this is a secondary that is going to get after it. They're going to, I mean, they're decent. They are good. And I think if you're Taven Jackson, and that's assuming Taven plays, you can't put the ball in danger. Like, you really can't. Like, this is one of those things where one tipped ball in the air, Kansas will pick it off. So it's one of those games where you can't make mistakes. You have to be almost so dialed in. You need every possession. You need every possession against this team to make sure that you are kind of in the position you need to be. And that's going to be on the offensive line to give him time. Because as of right now, or as of last week, Tavon Jackson got injured because he didn't have enough time. The offensive line didn't give him enough time. And this is going to be one of those games where Tavon's going to need a couple seconds. The 5-yard quick plays are not going to work anymore. They saw that against North Carolina. Teams are going to expect it. They're going to play for it. Stuff is going to need to get drawn up to get receivers down the field because teams right now are not respecting the run game. All right. You want to get to predictions?
Let's do it. I'll go first.
As always.
Yeah, I wasn't swayed the more we talked it out. I'm picking Kansas to win this football game. I am going to go Kansas 28, UCF 20. 28-20.
I don't have a score. The line is 5.5. I've already said that. The line is 5.5. The over-under is 54.5. That's a lot of points. Now, granted, these are, at least Kansas is...
I'm under that. Yeah.
You're under. Yeah, let me talk. I'm not going to give a huge spiel. I'm going Kansas, too. I think this is a game that we both had going to Kansas before the year. Listen, Lance Leipold, really good coach. Jalen Daniels, veteran quarterback, an offense that knows who they are. It's kind of one of those things where you're just at a disadvantage. Just like why we thought they'd be at a disadvantage against Kansas State before the season. Same reason why you look at Kansas and you say you're at a disadvantage. It also helps that Jalen Daniels is basically having the best season of his career, which makes sense since it's his 6th college football season. But I don't know. I think for me, I didn't have it close. I had it I think Kansas 34, UCF. I'm going to go 34-23. 34-23 UCF.
Or Kansas.
Kansas. I hope it's UCF. That'd be great. But no, listen, and that's not a knock on UCF. I think UCF, again, for me, and maybe this is just, if you just go back and watch our podcast, how much calmer I have become. I guess now it's just because the expectations are so low. I just want to see improvement. From last week to this week, show me that you can compete even more against a team you're not supposed... last week, you maybe were supposed to compete with Kansas State. You were supposed to potentially win that game. But Kansas State played like the team that they were supposed to be coming in. If you can go... you're at home, you have that on your side, you're going to have a raucous crowd. Granted, it's not like with North Carolina, where I said North Carolina hasn't played in a road game. Kansas has gone to Missouri and played at Missouri. So there's... Yeah.
I think where I'm at with UCF when they play teams like this that are really experienced right now, and obviously UCF just isn't, and especially as a collective, I think the buy-in is there, the effort is there, the want to is there, and those are all things that you as players can control, right? And I think that is enough to keep them in these ball games and keep it semi-close. I just think against opponents like this that are much more experienced than they are and have more playmakers than they do, eventually talent is just going to win out. I think, unfortunately. I think the dam will break at some point in that football game, and I think that's where I'd landed on this one. But again, if it ends up, if I had it as an 8-point football game, if it ends up that way and UCF is fighting all the way to the end, it's all you can ask for, man. It's really all you can ask for. Nobody's asking for this team to rip off, 9-10 wins and be contending at the end of the season. I don't think anybody's thinking that one. So try to keep these games close. And when we get further along into Big 12 play and you see some opponents a little bit that you can take advantage of, try to win those. But until further notice, try to just not get blown out.
Yeah, don't get blown out. I would like that. I don't want a 52-7 or 52-14, whatever the score was against Kansas last time. Keep it competitive. And again, I'm not saying UCF has no chance to win this game. I think there are ways that they can win it. If you can kind of possess the football longer, which again, name of the game, but if you can have the home crowd on your side, possess the football longer, take advantage of that defense on third down, and somehow get a couple stops. Maybe you sway the momentum and you kind of win this game. UCF's not expected to win this game. You just need to make sure that you are ready and prepared to beat the teams you're supposed to beat on your schedule. Like when you get to the Oklahoma States, when you get to the Houstons, when you get to the West Virginias.
Well, don't put Houston in that. Houston's undefeated right now.
Yeah, but Houston's not good. I mean, Houston's not good.
Houston's not. Okay.
They were, granted, I give them credit for coming back against a putrid Oregon State team, but they had.
We'll see how they look. They got their test against Texas Tech.
All I'm saying is you have favorable home opponents. This is not one of them. Kansas is not one of them. This is a team that is supposed to come in and beat you. They are the better team. But you have teams coming up that you're so even, you should be favored and you should win at home. So that's what you're getting ready for. If you can somehow beat some of these teams, like if you can go and somehow beat a Kansas, all you're trying to do is get to 6. I know we keep saying that. The goal is to get to 6. If you get an extra one, great. If you somehow slip up against an Oklahoma State, God forbid, okay, well, you got this one when you weren't supposed to. So get to 6. This is an opportunity, but, hate to be doom and gloom, but I would be shocked if UCF pulled this out. I'd be happily shocked. But before I kind of give Nick final thoughts, the injury report yesterday, which is today, came out while we were recording. Horst Lockett is out. Nick, I want to kind of say it to you. But Horst Lockett is out. I am curious because obviously the first
Breaks
4
my heart,
games,
man.
That stinks. That stinks for UCF. That's a big loss for this game. Jalen Hayward is out. Jacob Good is out. Caden Pining's out. Jaden Williams is out. And then Josh Dornsville is out. Jaden Williams and Josh Dornsville have been on that injury report last week, so that makes sense.
So it's 2 starters that are out. Basically.
Yeah, Dylan Wade. Questionable is Dylan Wade,
3.
Kelly Lawson, Isaiah Nixon, Jakari Brown, and Isaiah Reed. So those are all the questionables. I am curious, and I guess we'll find out really on probably Monday. But there is the 4 games played aspect and the red shirt aspect. So I wonder if any of those are red shirts. I wonder if maybe Jalen Hayward is maybe. I don't know if I don't want to speculate. I don't know if it's injury or if it's red shirt related, but it is something to take note of that maybe some of those players that are out are deciding to redshirt for the rest of the season and will potentially be transferring, or they're just redshirting to redshirt. Who knows? But just throwing that out there. Nick, any final thoughts?
Should be fun. Anytime you get a night game on a Saturday in conference play, don't take those for granted. As you mentioned, this is like the first one so far that we've had on a Saturday.
The first one against a Big 12 opponent. Yep.
Yeah. It's on a Saturday, right? Because we already had the Utah game on Black Friday last year.
Saturday.
Goodness, I'd like to not relive that game again.
Nope.
Anyway, so it should be fun. I think I saw the student ticket a lot. The student ticket things have already been sold out. So now they're selling like student standing or something like that. I thought I saw.
Good.
Maybe not. I might be wrong.
I don't know.
But
I gotta look.
I thought I saw that the student things were sold out. So it should be packed. If it is a close game, don't you dare go anywhere. Please stay. Please stay. Keep the bounce house full. So make the press box shake. I want to shake up there at the beginning. It's my only goal.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, share. Do what you do. We are, as always, sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Me and Nick both have Kansas State -5.5. What do you have? If you don't agree, go take UCF on FanDuel. I don't condone picking against us, but also I would love it if UCF won and we lost some money here. So use FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. As always, the best place to go bet on UCF football. All right, everybody, as always, we're going to be doing our pregame show, going to be doing our postgame show, so go check that out. It's going to be a late night for us, like I said, but we are happy to do it. We're excited for some late night heroics, hopefully by the Knights in the Bounce House on Saturday. That's going to do it. This has been Charge On, presented by FanDuel. We will see you on Saturday.